By the late 1980s, IMSA GTP had become insane. Cars waged war armed with well over 1,000 horsepower as the extreme engineering pushed cars and drivers to their absolute limits. Much like in Europe, the early years were dominated by Porsches all-conquering 962, but thanks to a monumental effort and a ridiculous amount of boost, Nissan fought through the field to dethrone the German giant, carving themselves into the history books with a generational run of success. But this wasn't destiny. The road was not smooth, so how did a mediocre Nissan graduate from present to powerhouse? Nissan were competing in Japanese Group C from early on. Well, their engines were at least. A few different teams powered a few different chassis with Nissan's turbocharged 2.1-litre inline 4, a unit used initially for Group 5 super silhouette racing. These cars were not exactly setting the competition alight, and while one of the teams was able to claim a podium in their second year, it was clear the cars were underdeveloped. Nissan's reputation at this point in time wasn't particularly strong off the track either, at home or even more critically, abroad. Having developed a boring commuter car image that was beginning to weigh them down, they needed to shake things up. Nissan were already competing in IMSA, but had been confined to the lower GTU class with more pedestrian GT cars, and they weren't doing super well there either. Their new GTP class racing car would be based around Lola's T810 chassis, a battle-tested platform already hosting Nissan power in Japan. It was developed with the aid of electromotive engineering, and would be entered under the model name GTP ZXT starting in 1985. 1985 marked an important turning point for the firm beyond just stepping into IMSA GTP, finding itself under new leadership with Yutaka Kume now in the driver's seat. He was keenly aware of Nissan's poor brand image and was convinced motorsport was a way of proving to the public they made more than boring boxes. This would lead to huge investment into the marque's domestic and international motorsport operations in an attempt to rejuvenate their brand image and make customers excited about the company and their cars again. It was in this context that Nissan expanded its Group C program across the Pacific. Lessons had been learned from the couple of years they'd contested Group C in Japan so far. Most notably, the ZXT represented Nissan's departure from the 2.1-litre inline 4, moving instead to a 3-litre V6, still turbocharged of course. The block was similar to that of the 300ZX for homologation reasons, but was extensively modified to cope with the stress of racing. This engine would be shared by the GTO class 300ZX in later years as well. The ZXT made its racing debut in 1985 at Laguna Seca, where it very much just kind of existed, finishing 8th in the GTP class and 11th overall, behind a couple of the lower class light cars. The car, only one of which had been built at this point, suffered a major accident in practice at the following event, causing it to have to miss a significant chunk of the remainder of the season. Once it had returned from round 11 in Portland, the middling results just kept rolling in. This wasn't a failure for Nissan though. They weren't expecting to perform right off the bat. Instead, 1985 was much more about ironing out the creases as they ramped up their prototype racing program. The ZXT was missing from the first couple of IMSA races in 1986, clocking in from round 5. What followed was a litany of double-digit finishing positions and DNFs, not to mention the many races electromotive engineering simply chose not to compete in. All until round 12 in Portland, where for the first time in its IMSA career, the ZXT nabbed a podium finishing spot. 4th the race after buoyed the team, giving hope they'd been liberated from the doldrums of the mid-pack until the car suffered an engine failure at Road America. The rest of the season didn't see a major recovery. 1987 though saw a turnaround for the embattled team, with the ZXT posting its first GTP race win at the second round in Miami. Electromotive engineering had managed to beat Porsche's formidable 962 for the first time. There was hope yet. Unfortunately, this was followed by a couple of accidents, and in addition to the team continuing not to compete in some of the longer events, their next classified finish was in round 6. It was only 5th place. This kinda summed up the rest of the ZXT's season. Middling performance, occasionally interrupted by mechanical failure. But with a win under their belt, it was clear the team and car were capable of more. After their maiden win, there was an appetite to invest more in the IMSA program. This gave Electromotive Engineering the money to start building their own chassis for the cars, allowing for an easier upgrade path compared to relying on outside chassis constructor Lola. This would prove to be money exceptionally well spent. 1988 saw the team really hit their stride, with the ZXT claiming victory in round 4 at Road Atlanta, then another at the next event in West Palm Beach, then a third victory in a row at the 150 laps of Lime Rock. I'm not done yet either. It won the Mid-Ohio 500 kilometers too, then round 8 at Watkins Glen, and then it won again at the Road America 500. So far, that's 6 wins in a row. Unthinkable for any of Nissan's prototype efforts until it happened, really. I told you it was money well spent. It carried on winning at the next race in Portland, where Electromotive Engineering scored their first 1-2. Yes, they now had a second car as well. Then round 11 at Sears Point went their way too. Nothing could undo the sheer domination of the Nissan GTP ZXT. The Drivers' Championship was won by Jeff Brabham, lead driver at Electromotive Engineering. They'd done it. Nissan, through a sustained and methodical effort, had dethroned Porsche in America. So the question changed. They weren't fighting to take the crown anymore. No. Now they had to fight to keep it. Despite an engine failure at the Daytona 24 Hours in 1989, the ZXT was back to its winning ways in Miami, finishing 2 laps ahead of the second-place Jaguar XJR9. And much like the previous year, this win wouldn't stand alone, as they won at Sebring and Road Atlanta too. West Palm Beach gave everyone a breather, with Electromotive Engineering coming a merciful 6th place to allow someone else a shot, before returning right back to their regime of total annihilation, winning the next 4 races in a row. In Portland, they managed 2nd and 3rd, losing to the newly introduced Jaguar XJR10, before going on another 3-race win streak. Of the 15 races that made up IMSA 1989, 10 were won by the ZXT, once again securing them the championship and handing Jeff Brabham another Drivers' Championship. So far so good for Operation Crown Maintenance. For 1990, Electromotive Engineering became Nissan Performance Technology Incorporated, and they were given the difficult task of developing a car to replace the ludicrously successful ZXT, anticipating the competition would finally start catching up to them. The new car would be called the NPT90, but it wouldn't be ready for the start of the IMSA season, so the venerable ZXT was sent into battle once more. As had become IMSA tradition, the ZXT floundered at the outset before reasserting itself in Miami and going on a streak. After Miami, NPTI went on to win the next 3 rounds before conceding rounds 6 and 7. Round 8 at Mid-Ohio saw the introduction of the firm's shiny new NPT90, which won straight out the gate, beating its predecessor, which came second. The NPT90 then won the next race too, but before they could totally destroy another year, it became clear that AAR's Eagle Toyota was not far off Nissan's pace. Jaguar weren't too far away either. Nissan finally had a real fight on their hands. The NPT90 would take victory at Road America later in the year, but the gap had shrunk. Nissan still won the Manufacturers' Championship by a healthy margin, and Jeff Brabham won his 3rd Drivers' Championship in a row, but the NPT90 hadn't proven to be as all-conquering as the ZXT had been in previous years. To ward off the threat, work was already underway on the NPT91 to try and thwart the rising stars of Jaguar and Toyota. The car wouldn't be ready until midway through the 1991 season though, so they started the year with the old NPT90. Well, sort of. For Daytona, NPTI actually entered 4 Euro-spec R90CKs from the previous year, believing they had a better chance to complete the 24-hour race than the NPT90. The cars were classified in the LM class, and in that class, they won, though they were the only team contesting it. They were really fighting the GTP cars, of course. The regulations were very similar, and so overall, the best finishing Nissan managed a still impressive 2nd place, losing to Yost Racing and their damn Porsche 962C. At West Palm Beach, Nissan reverted to the NPT90, and this time it was Jaguar who got the better of them, reaffirming the need to upgrade the NPT90 as soon as possible. Despite not having the newest car, Nissan were able to take a 1-2 finish at Sebring, before losing to Jaguar again in Miami. Both Nissan and Jaguar introduced new cars from round 5. Nissan's NPT91 would go head-to-head with Jaguar's XJR16. The cars were nip and tuck for the next 4 rounds, grabbing 2 wins each before the latter part of the season saw the Eagle Toyota lurch back towards the front, threatening both. Nissan fell back furthest of the 3 front runners, unable to score another win that year. Despite this increased competition, the strong consistency of Nissan's cars, something that could not have been said about their early GTP attempts, allowed Jeff Brabham to win yet another championship, ahead of second-place Chip Robinson, who was also driving for Nissan. At the 1992 Daytona 24 Hours, Nissan rolled out the big guns. The R90CK had managed second the previous year, but they had better machinery, they just needed to get it there. Factory team Nismo International parachuted in an R91CP, while the American NPTI entered a couple of older R90Cs. No points for guessing which idea worked better. The R91CP, driven by Kazuyoshi Hoshino and Toshio Suzuki, took overall victory at Daytona, beating the second-place Jaguar XJR12 by 9 laps, and setting the fastest lap at 1 minute 38.5. The rest of NPTI's IMSA season was contested by the slightly modified NPT 91A and B, which won in Miami before spending the rest of the season getting trounced by the All-American Racers Toyota Eagle Mark III. Factory support vanished from IMSA GTP, leaving the NPT 90 in the hands of the private Momo outfit for what would be GTP's final season in 1993. The car, which now saw little in the way of upgrades to try and catch up to the Eagle Toyotas, didn't win a single race that year, often hovering around the podium but unable to achieve the greatness that had defined so much of Nissan's time in the class. And just like that, it was over. GTP and Group C across North America, Europe and Japan collapsed as costs soared, manufacturers bailed, and competition dwindled. Just like Nissan's program to dominate it, the class itself had run its course. That hadn't been the plan. NPTI had developed a new car, named the P35, that was supposed to have entered the fray in mid-1992. Powered by a 3.5-litre naturally aspirated V12 to fall in line with the 1991 European Group C1 regulation change, the P35 would probably not have been very effective. They never really got the chance to find out, as its American variant was axed as Nissan pulled back for financial reasons, and the one race it did contest in Japan saw it finish 25 laps behind Toyota's vastly superior TS010. Hear all about that crazy car here, or check out the story of the AAR Eagle Mark III here. Thanks for watching, and until next time, goodbye.